103, 5 Lincoln 102, Lincoln 103 and 102.
Responding to 401 parking structure, section 1 boy.
Henry 8, Henry 9. Respond to gate 437 Bravo for your dignitary detail. 3K 911 unattended 400 lower level near carousel 4 black bag. GTA in progress 401 parking structure section 4 boy.
Responding to 401 parking structure, section 1 boy.
415 passenger on board aircraft.
Control 2 Franklin and route.
484 suspect is female, Hispanic, 28 years of age, blue jeans, no further.
Control 5 Frank 401 is en route.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio. Glad that you are joining us for this edition, December the 7th of 2020. Just about 3 weeks, a little bit more, left of this old year before we enter a brand new phase of our life and our history, 2021. And God only knows what 2021 is going to bring. We also want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we hope that this year will bring peace and that Santa's very good to you and that you get everything that you are looking for. During this week's edition, we have quite a few things that we do want to touch base on. We want to talk about a number of areas of concern for 2021. We want to talk about the situation across the country with COVID and with defunding the police. And we're going to talk a little bit about career versus job. We've been doing a lot about entrepreneurship and business ownership and career stability for months now. In fact, it's sort of been our running theme through the whole year of 2020. And in fact, we have a members only opportunity coming up after the first of the year where you'll be able to participate in a very detailed training and seminar style format for careers and businesses. And if you're not already a member of POI, of course, we encourage you to go to our website right now at privateofficer.org and sign up today. Right there at the top of the front page, there's going to be a banner. You can sign up for $99 for a lifetime membership right now until the end of the year. Or we have another special, $125, just $26 more, and you'll also get a free online course. And then, of course, you'll be prepared to come into the new year and take our entrepreneur, business ownership, and career seminar for members only. Isn't that a great deal? I think so. Go to our website at privateofficer.org today. We do have some sad breaking news coming out of Houston, Texas. A security officer working at what police are saying was an illegal gaming room. That's usually one of those fly-by-night casino-style game rooms where games of chance are used like a one-armed bandit at a casino, and they pay out cash, which is illegal. Many fronts. You can find these in many grocery stores, supermarkets, truck stops, all across the country. Generally, when you win, you only get a prize of some type. But in these illegal gaming casino-style formats, you actually get financial cash payouts, making that an illegal gaming room. And unfortunately, we've seen a number of security officers through the years killed in multiple states during these armed robberies. And unfortunately, what we have found out through our own research is that many times these illegally operated gaming rooms, they don't have enough security staff. They hire illegal security staff, and even licensed security companies illegally contract to provide security at these illegally run casinos. I've talked to several security company owners over the years about this, and they said, we don't get involved in the legality of what they're doing. We provide security. We don't ask them if they're running an illegal operation. We don't ask them if they're running a backroom operation. We only provide security. So in other words, what they're saying is we're going in with our eyes closed. We're assuming all the risk. We're going to take the chances. We're not going to ask any questions up front. What's unfortunate about all of this, of course, is that they're putting their employees more than ever in the line of being harmed or killed, knowingly putting people in a position where they could be killed, and in fact, several over the years were killed in their first day on the job. So I think that the owners of these security companies are complicit. I believe that they should also assume not only civil liability, but criminal liability. And it's unfortunate that these things continue to happen and that security companies aren't smart enough to run a legitimate, legal, honest, ethical company. Also in the news, we've heard for months and months about defunding the police. Now several police agencies have come up over the last few months with new methods of responses and the type of calls that they'll no longer take, as well as how civilians are going to be taking a larger role in policing their own community. Is this really something new? Is putting civilians on the street to respond to certain type of calls anything different than what's been happening over the last 30, 40 years? I say no, because we're going to talk about that coming up after the first break, but in some ways it may sound new, but it really isn't all that new. Civilians have been part of law enforcement going back to the early 1900s and before that. Civilians have often patrolled their communities and their cities, block watches. They've even responded to calls, and we'll talk to you more coming up here in a few minutes about how that really is not changing that much. Also in the news this week, we're going to talk about COVID and the new closures across many states, including California and New York, and how the vaccine may not really be the cure-all that it's being forecasted to be. We're going to take a quick break. You are listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio. When we come back, we have all of that and much more to talk about.
The Federal Aviation Administration wants you to fly your drone responsibly. Avoid flying your drone near other aircraft, especially near airports. Fly your drone below 400 feet. Always keep your drone in sight. If you see a safety issue involving drones, contact local law enforcement immediately. Fly smart. Fly safe. Have fun.
I met Luke when I was pretty much born. We kind of just grew up together. He got his license when he was 16. We were going to the beach, and Luke was driving. I was in the passenger seat, and all of a sudden, I don't remember anything. I wasn't conscious for it. We got hit by a drunk driver. I feel like I knew right away that it was never going to be the same. I don't know. The doctors, they were telling me I was so lucky to be alive. When I found out that he died on impact, I didn't really feel lucky. And sometimes I still don't. Drinking and driving is completely unnecessary, and I think it's selfish if you do it. It's not worth taking that risk, because you never know what's going to happen.
A few weeks ago, we talked about a Florida police agency being one of the first law enforcement departments to announce a laundry list of types of calls that they will no longer get involved in, they will not respond to. A number of other agencies, including San Francisco, has followed suit, and other agencies are contemplating the types of calls that they should no longer be involved in. Now, in St. Petersburg, Florida, back in July, they announced that they would not respond to calls of intoxicated individuals. Well, in most locations across the country, being intoxicated in public is actually a criminal offense, but many communities see that more as a substance abuse situation, a medical, and they will send ambulances. They will not respond any longer to mental health crisis. They will send a licensed social worker or other mental health worker. They will not respond to drug overdoses. They have classified those calls as medical in nature and not a criminal offense, which actually it is a criminal offense to have a drug overdose or to be in possession of any unlawful drugs. So that doesn't really sound legit. Disorderly intoxication. Somebody's intoxicated and they're misbehaving themselves in public. St. Petersburg police will no longer respond. Suicide crisis. Again, they've classified this as a medical and mental health crisis, not an issue for the police, and they're not going to respond to those calls. Homeless complaints and panhandling, again, although some of that could be elevated to criminal activity, the police department in St. Petersburg, Florida said, nope, we're not. That's not a criminal activity. We're not going. Neighborhood disputes. You can be in an argument with your neighbor, and as long as no violence has been used, they're not going to that call. Truancy. Kids not going to school. They're not going to get involved. That's going to be a school matter. Disorderly minors. Nope. No longer considered a criminal activity needing law enforcement intervention. Disorderly juveniles at elementary schools. Nope. That's not going to be considered a illegal act either. They're not going to respond. They say that out of 259,800 911 calls in 2019, St. Pete Police Department responded to 12,700 calls for help regarding those issues that we just mentioned, and they don't feel that police need to be involved in those circumstances, and so they're just not going. And is this really a good thing? Well, we're going to find out. Other departments have also put together their own laundry list of calls that they will no longer respond to. Of course, we've heard for months about the mental health crisis and the mental health response and how professional mental health personnel should respond. And so many agencies have already taken that off their list. But now San Francisco announced this past week, the president of the San Francisco Police Union has signed a letter saying that it's okay if non-sworn service providers instead of police officers respond to over 17 types of calls. That includes calls for, again, homeless persons, whether they're panhandling or living someplace that they're not supposed to, even if they're trespassing. It's no longer a law enforcement issue. They're not going to respond to quality of life calls. So what if someone's broken out a window? No longer a crime. Non-criminal mental health calls, they're taking that off their list of calls to respond to. Juvenile disturbances, again, doesn't this sound similar to St. Petersburg, Florida, and what other departments have put on their list? It certainly does. Public health violations. Well, we're talking about COVID. We're talking about violations of health codes, and these violations are not always violations of criminal statutes or even local ordinances, and therefore police have no legal jurisdiction in these matters. They're not going to respond, believe it or not, to traffic congestion. If you have road blockage, as long as there's no injuries and no serious accident, the San Francisco Police Department will not be on scene. Parking violations no longer being handled by the San Francisco Police Department. They've turned that over to a civilian division, as well as dog complaints. They do have an animal control unit, and they will handle the calls. And when they're not working, when they're off duty, oh well, if you've got a dog issue, if you've got prowling dogs, if you've got roaming dogs, if you have vicious dogs, the police will not come out because they're not dog wardens. They're not animal control, and they don't feel like their presence is going to be warranted in those situations. Many other police departments also making their laundry list of types of calls where they're not going to respond at all. Well, many people, taxpayers, are like, well, I pay taxes and they should be coming out, and I demand them. While other people are saying, good riddance. We don't need you. We don't want you here. We defund the police. It is a catch-22 situation, but I, on one hand, agree that many times police departments, especially in the last 20 years, have been dispatched to non-law enforcement type calls. Everything from a cat in the tree to a missing animal to a child who won't go to school. There are many different types of calls that come into 911. In fact, 911 system overall nationwide is overloaded with excessive 911 calls that really are not emergencies. Believe it or not, and you can go to the YouTube channels and you can hear some of these calls. Most calls that come in to 911 is not relevant to police and are not true emergencies. Millions of 911 calls are made every year, and it really bogs down the system. Are these services that no longer will be provided by law enforcement necessary law enforcement services? No, they're not. And for many years, multiple jurisdictions have used civilians for many of these things. Let's start right here with animal control. Did you know that most animal control are subcontracted out in many areas to private animal control care companies? These companies are civilians, unarmed, and they provide animal control. They investigate. They respond to animal complaints. They capture stray animals, but they're civilians. In some areas, the police agency has given them authority to write limited citations or summonses. In other areas, civilians work directly for the police department, but anything related to animal problems, the animal control handles it. when these animal control personnel are off duty, occasionally a police officer may be dispatched only if it's a violent situation, someone's been bitten, or there's a dog that is threatening, or something else which, it's urgent and it takes immediate precedence over everything else. For many years across the country, civilians, not police officers, have responded to traffic accidents. They've responded to take reports. They have patrolled communities and a whole lot more. We're going to pick this up right after the break. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio.
More than 114,000 people are waiting on an organ transplant at any given time in the U.S., and at least 80% of those are waiting for a kidney.
For kidneys, it largely defaults to waiting time, but for livers, hearts, and lungs, it's largely based on the degree of illness and how sick someone is, and that defines their priority on the waiting list.
Dr. Charles Rosen, director of the Transplant Center at Mayo Clinic, says living donors can help save people waiting for a kidney or a liver, but those waiting for other organs, unfortunately, have to wait for a deceased donor. Dr. Rosen says if you're interested in saving another person's life with your organs after you die, it's important to sign up as a donor now while you're still alive to save your family from having to make a difficult decision at a difficult time.
We've heard from donor families or potential donor families that decided not to donate because it was such a stressful time in their lives that then 3-6 months later they felt some remorse for not doing that.
For the Mayo Clinic News Network, I'm Ian Roth.
Hey everyone, you're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector right here on the Private Officer Radio Network. Now don't go away because we are coming right back when we've got a whole lot more right here on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
Human trafficking is slavery.
And it happens all over America. Any child, any woman, any man could potentially become a victim of human trafficking.
I am a victim of labor trafficking.
I was a victim of child sex trafficking, but now I own my body.
Human trafficking is any kind of forced labor.
It can happen to anybody.
I am a mother.
I am an author.
I am a son.
I'm an advocate.
I am an educator.
I'm a sister.
I am a brother.
I'm so much more than what happened to me.
I am strong.
I am brave.
I am outspoken.
I am compassionate.
I am a survivor.
I'm a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor of human trafficking.
Talking about effective use of police services and the defunding the police theme that continues across the country, and how this whole 2020 is reshaping law enforcement, what they do, how they do it, and the involvement of civilians who are protecting and serving their own communities. We just talked about San Francisco and St. Petersburg, Florida, two of the cities who have come out in the last couple of months with a laundry list of types of calls that they will no longer respond to, no longer handle. And yes, it's good because in many cases, police who are already understaffed, underfunded, especially now, they don't have the manpower to go to every petty call that comes in, especially something that is non-imminent, no threat, not in progress, not a crime to begin with. And I'm asking you today, is this any different than it has been for years and years and years? I don't think so. Animal control, as we just talked about, in many areas has been subcontracted out for many years to civilian companies who handle all animal control calls. In some areas, including Las Vegas and other big cities, private traffic investigators subcontract out to law enforcement to provide response to traffic accidents with non-injuries, most often on private property or in the city, on the streets, but there's no accidents, no injuries, no major damage, it's just a fender bender. And many areas have civilians, whether they work internally for the police department or for a private company, they respond and they do the paperwork, and police are not involved. If they need to come out because of traffic control situation or because one or both drivers may have been in violation of a criminal infraction, maybe one of them doesn't have a driver's license, doesn't have insurance. Some traffic civilian investigators have citation authority. They can write a citation, or they can call law enforcement to write that citation, or they can even take a report and file an arrest warrant. No need for police to come out and get involved. Other types of community involvement or civilian involvement for many years has been the community service officer. This community service officer is a civilian hired internally or subcontracted out to private companies that respond to non-criminal activity. You come home late at night, you find that your mailbox has been vandalized. You find that somebody has stolen something from your garage. You find that your property has been vandalized. These are not interactions that civilians and police officers need to have. You can send a civilian to any non-active criminal complaint or activity to write a report. These days, reports are computerized. Everyone has an iPad or a laptop, and very quickly, just like that, they can knock out a report in 5 minutes or less. The community service officer, they respond, they take the information, they write the appropriate report, and a police officer is never taken off the beat, and the community service officer serves that purpose. Community service officers, or in some areas they're called support service officers, often respond also to things such as traffic lights are out. They go to that call and they respond, and they see if they can figure out what the situation is, whether or not they need to call in traffic engineering or whoever's in charge of traffic control signals, and they stand by and direct traffic. Civilians for many years have also responded to complaints like someone has dumped garbage alongside of the road. Someone has trespassed on the property and dumped a mattress, old couch, bags of garbage. For many years, police departments have used auxiliary police officers. These are usually in many areas non-sworn or sometimes sworn, unpaid personnel to patrol the community and act as a community watch. They have used them for traffic control, civil response when there's been tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, controlling traffic, not intervening in criminal activity, especially not serious criminal activity. Many times these auxiliary police officers have been unarmed. In some cases, they are armed. Also known in many areas as reserve police officers. They do sometimes have full police authority, especially when they are on duty. And in some areas, they are used to augment police patrols. So as you can see, civilian engagement, civilian patrolling and protecting and working within the community is really, it's nothing new. It is expanding, and it is I would say in many news circles, media circles, it is being touted as, the new concept, but it really isn't. Police departments for at least the last 60 years have used volunteers in many, many areas. In fact, there are several organizations. Seniors have an organization where they assist the police. They work inside the police station, taking reports, filing, and doing other non-law enforcement and administrative duties. Many communities have community watches, which are supported by the police department. They not only walk the area, but they patrol the area in marked cars. We see more and more communities going with these type of services, and also many communities use civilians to write parking citations, and they even have a handicap patrol in several cities that do nothing but enforce handicap parking violations, and these two are civilians. Is it really new? Is it a new concept? Did someone just all of a sudden come up with this, oh my gosh moment, and really, we could do so much without the police with just civilians? No, it's not. And we want to be clear that this is not a new concept. And all of the folks who are trying to take credit for it, they need to step back and look at history. Of course, we're trying to wipe out our history in many areas. We're trying to get rid of history, but the true fact is history dictates many times what we do in the future. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, hey, we still got a lot to talk about. Less lethal weapons. Have you heard of the BOLA rap? We've talked about this at least one other time on the radio program, but there are a number of new, less lethal options for law enforcement and security. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio, of course. Coming right back.
A crisis, everybody. Now, most of you have seen me wearing my signature mask on a plane. I love wearing it when I fly. I tend to get my own row 99% of the time. It's simple. Just wear the mask and cough. Because who wants to sit next to this guy? I don't blame you. And I went from being the only one on a plane wearing a mask to now everybody is doing it. Out in public, the park, at the mall, at the post office, with their girlfriend, with their husband, with their husband's girlfriend. We need to help our doctors, our nurses, and our healthcare workers who are fighting COVID-19 head on. And we need to make sure they don't acquire the virus. These frontliners have been running out of personal protective equipment, PPE. People have asked me, Kayvon, are you down with PPE? Are you down with PPE? Are you down with PPE? I'm like, yeah. You know me. Yeah, you know me. The CDC has been forced to downgrade the need for N95 masks to surgical masks, now down to bandanas because of a lack of supplies. Does this seem like a good idea to you? Hi, I'm your doctor. I'm also here to rob your bank. Bandanas? Scarves? What kind of PPE is that? One more. This is one of the easiest ways you can be a hero. So if you're a healthcare provider in need, or if you have supplies you can donate, there are a lot of groups leading the effort. Start with the PPE Coalition. They're a great resource and they can get you pointed in the right direction. So there you have it. Be a hero, make a donation, and help a frontline healthcare professional. After all, their health right now is in your hands. And while you're at it, wash those too. If you don't, you're disgusting. Yeah, you know me. Yeah, you know me. Yeah, you know me.
If you're not already receiving breaking news and our bi-weekly newsletter, Officer Down Reports, and discount training news in your personal or business email, then go to our website right now at privateofficer.org. Privateofficer.org. A drop box will come down. Just fill out your info, and you'll be the first, one of the first, for sure, to know about what's happening in the security industry. You'll know when a security officer is killed. You'll also get these great discounts on training and equipment and so much more. Privateofficer.org. And if you're not already a member of the Private Officer International Association, sign up while you're there today. Become a lifetime member for just $99, and we'll also include a free Private Officer International patch and lapel pin. If you are already a member, that's great, and we appreciate you. We'd like for you to spread the news and tell your coworkers, employees, and others in the industry about the Private Officer Group and how they can become a member and enjoy more than 40 member benefits. All right, welcome back, everyone. In the news this week, always a lot of breaking news, and in fact, over the last, probably 3, 4, 5, 6 months, we've actually seen a lot more news relevant to our industry as well as the public safety community as we see more and more topics coming up on health, OSHA, safety of officers, coronavirus, and so on and so forth. Of course, our office is staying on top of all of the latest news and all of the topics of interest so that we can bring them to you. By the way, if you're not already receiving the breaking news in your email, contact us. Go to privateofficer.org today and sign up. It's free, won't cost you not even a penny. You'll get the latest breaking news, officer down reports, and upcoming training opportunities. Go to privateofficer.org today, and you'll be one of the first to know what's happening in the security and public safety arena. Of course, breaking news is brought to you by Body Armor USA. We've got what it takes to protect you. There's no doubt in this world that if you're looking for protective gear, clothing, stab-resistant vests, body armor, anything that's going to protect you, we've got what it takes to protect you, no doubt about it. Go to Body Armor USA. Check out all of the great stuff that they have there for you, and be sure to send them an email if you don't see what you need. These guys are some of the best in the business, and I'm not saying that because they're a sponsor, but it's definitely the truth. You can also give them a call today at area code 516-817-1666, Body Armor USA. We've got what it takes to protect you. Coming out of Chicago, Illinois, a Brinks armored truck was held up, robbed early Friday morning. Police say a gunman approached the driver on West 41st Street with a firearm and robbed the female security officer of her cash and her firearm. The suspect did flee, has not been apprehended, but they are definitely investigating, and the FBI is now involved. Coming out of St. Louis, Missouri, a former security officer is accused now of rape and sodomy dating all the way back to the late 1990s. Robert Ross of St. Peter's has been charged with first-degree statutory rape, 4 counts of first-degree statutory sodomy, and 3 counts of first-degree child molestation. Robert Ross evidently was employed at that time in a security position. Investigators investigating some cold cases where he was also involved in the ROTC Naval High School program, and more charges may be coming. A security officer was shot and killed at what police are saying was an illegal gaming room. We have often talked about gaming rooms in many areas. This occurred in Houston, Texas. The security officer on duty evidently was involved in a shootout during a robbery. Police say that the security officer, who they're not naming at this time, was fatally wounded during the shootout. Suspects did elude police, but investigators are combing over surveillance video and other evidence, and they believe that they'll be able to make an arrest in this case coming up soon. Illegal gaming room across the country. We see this in North Carolina, Virginia, Texas, Oklahoma, and many other states. These are gaming rooms that have video-type games that have illegal payouts. And what they do is they actually cause crime in the area. We've had literally several dozen security officers over the years killed during these same type of situations. Very violent, very risky, and obviously very illegal. 29 inmates charged 2 years after the South Carolina riot at Lee Correctional Institution. Authorities there say a riot back 2 years ago in 2018 broke out. It left 7 inmates dead, 22 injured. And just now, this past week, the state's attorney has filed criminal charges including murder, first-degree assault, and battery by a mob, resulting in a death. 29 they're charged. Also in the news, New York casino security officers have received a mayor's recognition after saving a guest's life. This happened in Schenectady. 2 security officers from Rivers Casino and Resort in Schenectady, New York, received that recognition after saving the life of a guest. Rivers Security EMTs Melinda Cooper Killenberger and Kyle Bronwell responded to the call after a guest had collapsed on the floor. They used CPR and an AED to bring that person back to life. So great job to those officers as well. In Springfield, Missouri, Cox Health said they are adding 2 new officers to its security team. Those 2 security officers are actually canine officers. They're bringing 2 German Shepherd trained to do a number of things, including sniff out explosives and firearms, as well as search for people who may have wandered off from the hospital. The 2 security officers and their partners went through a 6-week academy in Ohio, and the hospital says that they are sure to be bringing on more in the future. A San Jose, California museum is being protested by police because of a piece of art there that depicts person of color stomping on a police cruiser. Police have protested this piece of art, which is on display at the international airport there. And there's been quite a bit of social media conversation on it as well. A sad note, in Charleston, West Virginia, a police officer of only 2 years, Cassie Johnson, was killed in the line of duty. The 28-year-old, 4-year veteran was called for a parking complaint. And somehow, some way, the suspect, during a confrontation, opened fire. Despite her wound, she was able to return fire and did wound the suspect. That man was arrested a short distance away. Patrolman Johnson started her career as a parking enforcement officer for 2 years before progressing into being a police patrol officer. In Stafford County, Virginia, several adults are facing criminal charges after their 5-year-old boy showed up to school this past week with a loaded firearm in his backpack. Stafford County Sheriff's Office said the incident occurred at the Ann E. Moncure Elementary School in North Stafford. A teacher noticed something that looked like a firearm in the backpack and investigated. Authorities are not saying how that child got the gun or how it got into the backpack, but that criminal charges are pending. In Lake Charles, Louisiana, a federal court this past week ruled that an injured security officer should receive supplemental income benefits from workers' compensation. In Landry versus Lofton Security, the Louisiana Court of Appeals ruled in favor of the security officer, Robert Landry, who was an unarmed security officer stationed at a general hospital there in Louisiana when he was injured while protecting staff from a psychiatric patient, and he was later diagnosed to have extensive injury, which limited what type of work that he could do. A lower court had seen the case and said that he was not due any further compensation, but the appellate court ruled different this past week. In Denver, Colorado, a security company there who was involved in putting an unlicensed security officer to work for a TV station, and later that security officer was involved in a fatal shooting, has now relinquished their security license. The company, Eisburn Security Service Professional Protection, has relinquished their security license to the city and will not seek a new license for at least 5 years, according to Denver authorities. Coming out of Redding, California, also this week, a woman who threatened a security officer, rammed police officers with her vehicle, was fatally shot by police during that confrontation. According to police, they were originally called to the scene by a security officer at the Mod Pizza. After a woman threatened the security officer, police attempted to talk with her when she jumped into her vehicle and rammed the police vehicles, battering one officer, and that's when police opened up on the woman. If you would like to see our daily news blog, all of the breaking news, go to privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. privateofficernews.blogspot.com. You can keep up on our daily news blog there. Coming out of Franklin, Ohio, Franklin County, Ohio, a police investigation which took more than 2 years in the murder of a security officer working at a pub and grill has finally been solved. Police have made the arrest in the shooting of Robert Woods. Police arrested Brandon Neville, 23, and charged him with murder of the security officer. In Dearborn, Michigan, a police officer facing a lawsuit in a fatal shooting that he was involved in several years prior committed suicide. In 2015, the police officer, Christopher Hampton, was involved in a traffic stop that resulted in a fatal shooting. He was subsequently sued, and now he has sadly committed suicide. Much more news. We have a variety of methods for you to get the news. You can go to our website, the Private Officer Breaking News at blogspot.com. You can sign up for our emails at privateofficer.org. You can listen to our radio shows every week, or you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter. Those are our two primary social media sites where we also post breaking news. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we've got so much more to talk about. And, of course, if you're not already a member of Private Officer International, and as I always say, who wouldn't want to be, because there are so many benefits and so much happening within the organization to benefit private security and private police, go to our website today at privateofficer.org. Right there at the very top of the front page is a banner. Right now, you can become a member of this international organization for just $125, which will include a free online course. $125, holy Toledo. And later, early next year, in a few months, we're going to have a members-only business seminar, and you'll be privy to that as well at no additional charge. Go to our website, privateofficer.org. Sign up and become a member today, and you will be glad that you did. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio.
Slow down.
And move over.
When you see lights, vest,
or reflectors, please give us some room.
Slow down.
And move over.
We look out for you, so look out for us.
Please.
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 Slow down. And move over.
It's the law.
It's the law.
It's the law.
wouldn't think the cafeteria would be a scary place.
There are 5.9 million kids in the U.S. living with food allergies.
It happens to me on the school bus.
And a third of kids with food allergies are bullied because of it. Right now, we're working on a cure for food allergies. Until then, there is a cure for food allergy bullying. You. Go to foodallergy.org to teach your kid about the seriousness of food allergies.
If I'm not at school, I can't get bullied.
Food allergy bullying. It's not a joke.
We have received some breaking news here in our office while we have been on the air. A news alert has come in reporting that a security officer, a supervisor of a contract security business, has killed a man during a robbery. The security supervisor was stopping at a pharmacy to check on a security officer assigned at that location. As the security officer exited his vehicle, he heard a man screaming for help. He went to see what was happening. He determined that it was some type of a robbery. A shooting occurred where he did kill the robbery suspect. Police responded. The suspect in the robbery was trying to rob a customer of the pharmacy in the parking lot. According to law enforcement, they have not charged the security officer at this time. The investigation is continuing, and we are uncertain whether or not the security supervisor or anyone else was injured during the robbery attempt. We will stay on top of this and keep you updated. Remember, for the latest news, go to our website at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com or sign up for breaking news headlines in your email box. Go to privateofficer.org and you'll get the latest breaking news, officer down reports, and upcoming training opportunities there in your mailbox. This week, we're talking a little bit about unarmed civilians and how they are going to and have been making quite the difference in how law enforcement responds to various types of jobs. Not to plug any of my businesses, but if you are interested in becoming part of the solution, you can go to publicsafetyservices.org, and check out Community Public Safety. This is one of our companies that does provide community service officers, traffic investigators, and ancillary police, civilian support services. There are multiple openings and there are opportunities to open up your own office. publicsafetyservices.org. We've had this business for quite a while. We don't talk about it much, but it is at the right place at the right time. And as I mentioned before going to the break, this is something that departments and agencies have used for years and years and years. This is not a new idea by any imagination. So if you're looking to get involved, or if you own a private security company and you want to take a wise advantage of the new services being made available and subcontracting to law enforcement, you can contact us at helpdesk@privateofficer.com, helpdesk@privateofficer.com, and we will help you. We have a number of resources, and we will be able to assist you in that. We may even be able to get you to partner with Community Public Safety Services in supplying some of those different civilian services to your local police department. In other topics, this week we have surpassed the 300 death mark of private security officers. We will have a final total by the end of the month or the first week of January. At this time, we're looking at close to 350 probably deaths, 325 to 350. I was informed yesterday that the law enforcement Officer Down Memorial page now shows that their total line of duty deaths has been 272. I believe 191 came from COVID-related deaths. These are being considered line of duty deaths. We have a number of locations that we are waiting to receive reports from, including several major companies, and we're looking to see what those death totals will be from COVID or coronavirus. These are considered line of duty deaths, as I've explained a number of times. When you have frontline personnel who have been actively involved in a work assignment and then become sick, it's obvious that he probably got it at work. It's assumed, it's called assumptive death. It's assumed that they did contact the disease or the virus at their workplace. So it is sad that this year our private security officer deaths well over 300, and law enforcement looks to be the same. We've mentioned a number of times on our radio show about less lethal weapons and how technology is really coming up with a number of different types of less lethal options. One of the newest is BolaWrap. If you haven't seen this device, we did talk about it at least one other time on the radio program, but if you haven't seen it, check it out on their website, Bolla, B-O-L-L-A, Wrap. They go for about $1,400, and what they are essentially are two heavy weights, one at each end of a leather type strap, and it is contained in a gun-like device. You fire it, and it sends out this weighted wrap, and if you're on target, it will wrap around the suspect, around their arms or legs, whichever position that you point that weapon at. And supposedly, if you're on the mark, it will subdue the person. Now, I have seen this demonstrated, and I've seen this on video. And I've seen it used on video, and it seems like, similar to the taser, if you're on the mark, if you're accurate, and you are within firing range, then it does do a pretty good job. Unlike the taser, it leaves no long effects. It doesn't injure the person. There's no propellant. There's no barb that goes into the person's skin. This basically just wraps around the person. Is this right for private security? It could be, actually. It's probably a very good less lethal option as long as the officer using it has enough backup there to then properly subdue the person. And that's the whole premise of this less lethal weapon. You have to have officers there to then subdue that person and take them into custody and handcuff them. If it's only one officer, one security officer, one unarmed security officer using this weapon, he may or may not be able to later subdue and handcuff the suspect, depending on how violent the person becomes, how aggressive. at that point, he may have to back away and call additional resources. Another weapon that's being tested is a net gun, where it fires out a propellant that spreads a net over the suspect and supposedly gets them all tangled up in the net until police can subdue him. Of course, there are rubber bullets and other non-lethal rounds. We've demonstrated those. We have talked about those. And as we continue with discussions across the country about use of force and less lethal, you're going to see more and more options becoming available. One company is even studying how drones can hover over a suspect and subdue that person by several different means. Of course, that will take an operator to be called out or on scene. So many different advances in weapons and thoughts and, research going into how to prevent deaths of suspects. And we have unfortunately seen the number of police deadly force, use of force incidents continue. And, I'm not blind. I've been around for a long time. I don't see any excessive force increases. I don't think that all of a sudden in the last 10 or 15 years, police have gotten more violent, more prone to using lethal force. But I have seen more people, more criminals become more violent, more aggressive, more non-compliant, more armed, so on and so forth. So I have to be honest with you. All of the social media stuff going around about defund the police and the police being systemic about people of color, so on and so forth, there's always been bias. Unfortunately, will always be bias. Some cases even targeted bias. And hopefully when police agencies see that, when they are aware of it, investigate it, they take care of it. And that's, the best that we can hope for. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to wrap it up. And if you would like to be part of the radio program, if you have a topic that you would like to talk about, send us an email at helpdesk@privateofficer.com, helpdesk@privateofficer.com. You are listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio.
Hey there, Rupert here. It's really tough being a survivor on TV, but it's easy being a survivor in your boat. Just make sure everyone in your tribe is wearing their life jacket. Accidents can happen fast on the water. There's rarely time to reach a stowed life jacket in an emergency. But check these life jackets out. New, comfortable, lightweight, and perfect for any boating or sports activity. Be a survivor. Don't just carry that life jacket. Wear it. Yeah!
This message brought to you by the National Safe Boating Council and this station.
It's a very simple thing. It only takes 2 seconds. We all know we should do it. We all say we do it. But do we? About 35,000 people were killed in motor vehicle accidents last year. More than half were not wearing a seatbelt. A brother, a father, a mother, a best friend. Is it worth it? I lost a sister. Don't let it happen to you and your family. Tell the people you love to buckle up.
You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio, and I am your host, Rick McCann, founder and CEO of Private Officer International. I usually say that at the beginning of the show, but we got into talking about so many different things, and time got away from us, so I'm saying it at the close of the show this time. Careers versus job. I was talking to a very close friend of mine this week out in California. We were talking this weekend about having to push along some employees to wanting more than just a job, a paycheck. And sometimes you can encourage people to move further in their career, to look at the security industry as a career, and sometimes you just can't. I have seen a number of security companies. I know growing up in Connecticut, there was a company there called Sanitas Security and Maintenance. And they started out as a maintenance type company, and they grew into a uniform security company. They started out in the New York, Connecticut region. They grew. And at that time, I don't think that I really ever thought that was going to be my career. And it wasn't, but it was a stepping stone. But there are a number of companies that I'm familiar with throughout the United States in my lifetime that have started as a small contract security company and grew to a national and even an international company. Another business called ABM Industries, similar to Sanitas, they started in 1909 by a single person who washed business windows, and he grew it to a multi-billion-dollar security and building maintenance company. As a security officer, it's like working any place else, whether it be in a grocery store, whether it be at a fast food location, whether it be any business whatsoever. You can start on the ground floor, and if your heart's in it, if your mind is in it, if your soul is in it, you can go up the ladder, grow into another business, start your own company, even buy and take over your employer. I've seen this time and time again where employees become the employer through the years. Guardsmark is another private security company who started in 1963. It was the fourth largest security company and the only major security provider that was privately held by the family. They grew that to more than 20,000 employees, billions of dollars, and it was, I'm telling you, it was one of the companies that you had to compete against if you were going to be in the business. Guardsmark was well known. The president, Ira A. Lipman, he ran the thing professionally. He had strong business ethics, and eventually the company was sold to Universal Protection Service in 2015. And we all know that Universal Protection Service sold to Allied Universal. And so around and around we go. If you are in any type of business only for a paycheck, that's all that you will receive is a paycheck. The employer generally will not prod you, will not encourage you, will not push you, will not even talk to you about progressing if you don't show the interest, if you don't show the attitude, the right attitude, if you don't have the wherewithal to do better than what you're doing. I personally push myself every day. I started in the security industry. I've told this story numerous times. At the age of 17, I went into the military. I became a law enforcement officer, so on and so forth. Owned a number of businesses. We just recently opened up a brand new business. I've been in EMS, a paramedic and EMT, a first responder for dozens of years. And after some serious research and thought and prayer, honestly, we looked at what could we do that would help more people. And we know that more and more people, even before COVID struck, more and more people are relying on medical services at home. You probably have heard of telemed. That's a doctor or a nurse talking to you via the internet, via your phone. Many times a patient will not go to a doctor, an ER, or even an urgent care because they just don't like the environment. They don't like going out. We know that nationally and worldwide, people are getting more and more used to the idea of things coming to them instead of them going to whatever service or product that they want to receive. So we have developed a very unique service where we provide an urgent care on wheels at your home, business, condominium, hotel, wherever you are, we will be. If you have an illness, if you have an injury, we will come to you. This company is already successful. We plan for it to be even much more successful in a very short time. I say this to tell you that it is no easy feat. It is not an easy thing for anyone to climb the ladder, whether it's internally at a business or to be creative and start their own company, whatever that might be. But it is possible, very possible. It doesn't matter the politics of the country. It doesn't matter who's running the company. A business will survive. Being an entrepreneur at heart and studying as many different companies as I have come to realize that in the downtimes, in times when the country is going through great financial crisis, political strife and problems, and other issues, there are companies that grow out of it. Large businesses have grown during the 2007 recession. Businesses will always survive. If you have the wherewithal, if you have the ability to be self-governed, if you have the ability to want more than what you have, you can have it, and you can be in charge of your own destiny, your own life. And so when you're looking at a job and you're looking at a paycheck, that's a short-term situation. It should never be the long term. You should always want more. You should always want that promotion. You should always want to run that department, that division, that region. You should always want to become something more. I have several stories. We don't have time today to share them, but I will be talking about these next month when we do our member-only training about business and procuring a lifestyle that most people can only dream about. But we have stories of employees that grew and climbed the ladder to become owners of the business or very strong regional directors, presidents, vice presidents, so on and so forth. In today's world, there's only one thing that can prevent you from getting to where you're going or where you want to go, and that's you. Here at Private Officer International, we've always been big on helping our members and even non-members with being an entrepreneur, a business owner, or doing better in their career. If you're a member of POI and you need some guidance, contact helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Private Officer is here to help you. If you're not already a member, go to our website today at privateofficer.org and sign up today to be a member and be there in a couple of weeks when we do our members-only training on how to not only make money, but how to be more, how to do better, how to have more, and how to be a better you. Thanks for joining us today. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you here next week, same time, same place, on the Private Officer Beat Radio. Until then, be blessed, be safe. We'll see you here on the radio next week.